right? You have a lot of turnover, possibly. Kelsey may be finished.
Where I'm looking up average life expectancy. I'm dreaming at this point. Like, I can't. I'm done with the season.
What's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes? And it's weird to be talking about a guy like, what's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes, and he's not 30. You could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That is T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
Greetings and salutations. What's going on?
Hold on. What is up with that Sunday morning reading the announcements? You about to say somebody, you about to say somebody is on the prayer list or somebody just had a hip replacement, aren't you?
That used to be my go-to. Greetings and salutations.
Right? Look, man, you always remember we was in church and they used to have you read the announcements in front of big church and how nerve-wracking that was.
Yes.
You remember that, dog? Because you was up there, and mind you, we all could read, right? But we're like, good morning. And this is one of them that they'll give you the country for just because you cute. Take your time, baby. Take your time. Right? Mr. Greetings and Salutations, Kennedy Miller. Where can the folks find you on the artist formerly known as Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _.
All right. I said M as in margaritas, Kennedy Miller. I should have said M as in moving truck or moving boxes, because that's what Penn State just sent to James Franklin's house, because they have fired James Franklin. They come into the season a trendy pick for some,
Yes,
to make it to the national championship game, possibly to win the whole thing. In 6 weeks in, they done told him, go upstairs, pack your bags, while you at it, call a cab. Kennedy Miller, is this for you the most shocking in-season firing we can remember?
only because I feel like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. James Franklin is a good coach. Clearly, he won 70% of his games at Penn State. Was there 12 years? They made it to the Final Four last year. Of the college football playoff, they always, I want to say he's finished in the top 10 5 times since he's been at Penn State. Like, they're going to be good. Our knock on Penn State is you can't win the head-to-head games. You can't win the head-to-head games. So I don't know if I was talking to you or one of my other friends about it, but the Penn State versus Oregon game with Penn State at home, like,
That was us.
Yeah, I said if he doesn't win that game, it's gonna start being some questions, right? It's gonna start being some questions, and that made him 2-19 versus top 10 Big Ten opponents since his time started at Penn State. Now you lose that game. That was 16 days ago, by the way, and it wasn't like they got blown out. Like, it was a close game 16 days ago.
They went to double overtime.
Yes. Then you go to UCLA. You're 20-point, you're favored by 20 to win that game, basically. And I don't know if it was the travel, Big Ten. You come from Penn State all the way to UCLA. You playing this basically a morning game, and you don't really wake up until the fourth quarter. You lose that, and then you lose Northwestern. You lose to Northwestern as a 20-point favorite again when your quarterback goes down and is out for the season. I just think that the administration kind of was looking at the writing on the wall. Like, did you see the way that this man was looking after the game?
He looked like a dead man walking.
He looked like a dead man walking. And then if you turn the audio on when he's walking out, I mean, I don't want to know some of the things that they were saying to him on the way out. But it was the look of a fan base that had turned on their coach. And again, he did a good job. But we said it, beating SMU and beating Boise State last year was not going to be enough to retain your job. You got to beat some of those big time opponents head to head. You have to.
I'll say this: even if you don't win those head to heads, it wasn't like they went out there and got boat raced by Oregon. It's not like in some of those games against Ohio State that they're getting boat raced, right? Offensively, I think a couple of years ago they didn't have the guys to get it done.
Mm.
Right, the offense wasn't where it needed to be to get it done. Right, or there are these different reasons why, but they're not getting boat raced, but they're still not winning those games. Right, and this is going to come up in a minute when we talk about Brent Venables and what this is going to be for him at Oklahoma. It's not that he's losing; it's how he's losing as well. Right? Especially in the context of those last two games, because UCLA, I swear for God, I thought they were going to be winless. They got, not only did UCLA
Yes.
lose to New Mexico State, they got their asses whipped. I mean, bell to bell, got their candy asses whipped. Okay. They got whipped a few weeks ago. And now UCLA has won the next two games, which makes me ask, Deshaun Foster, what the hell were you doing? Like, was he not doing much of anything up in there? Because now they look like a new team with a new lease on life, right? They ain't going to nobody's bowl game. They ain't doing nothing like that. But they appear as that they're happy that man is gone, right?
Well, you remember that crazy press conference that he had when he first got the job.
Yes, I do. I do. I do. Like this might not work. Right. There's been a couple of new black coaches that we've hired where I'm like, I don't know if this might work. Like Fran Brown's doing phenomenally at Syracuse.
Yes, he is.
But and there were a couple of things that made me say, I don't know if this is gonna work. Namely the fact that he don't wash his ass if they lose a game. Right. Like I was just like, and yes, if you're asking, yes, Fran Brown is black, and yes, his queen is too, which was shocking because I don't know a black woman breathing that would let her husband come back in the home, not shower and get into bed with her. Oh no. Oh no. And apparently the story is she makes him sleep on the couch or sleep in the guest house or sleep. I'm like, that's a black woman right there. That's a queen. Back to James Franklin. You can't lose that game. And let's say even every year I feel like teams have inexplicable losses, right? Like we're going to look back probably in December and look at that opening weekend game, Florida State and Alabama, and say, what the
Yes.
hell was that? Right?
Yes.
Like that made like that's a result that didn't make much, that's not gonna make much sense to us pretty soon. It really doesn't make much sense to me now, other than the fact that for Alabama, Jamarian Miller and Tim Keenan didn't play. That seemed to be a huge difference for them, right? You can have an inexplicable loss. You can't have two of them back to back. Right? Go look at what Texas did last weekend, right? Texas looked horrific against Florida, a Florida team that we had left for dead,
Yep.
right?
We
And
said he was fighting for his job too.
right, Napier's fighting for his job, right? But then they go out there against Oklahoma, like you don't have two back-to-back horrible losses and keep your job, right? Like typically that's not going to happen, right? But I think with Franklin, my thing is two things, right? One, most times when a coach is going to get fired, we see that writing on the wall. We see that train coming from 2, 3, 4 miles away, right? Like think about what we're talking about right now in the NFL in the context of Mike McDaniel. Think about Brian Callahan, who just got canned in Tennessee after he won 4 of his first 23 games, right? Think about Doug Peterson and Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, where it's like, yeah, this for months before the fire, this isn't going to work. They're going to can this guy, right? Almost where I think a lot of people are starting to get with John Harbaugh. Kennedy Miller, you got to give me my props. I was up on it early.
Yes.
I'm up.
Yes, you were.
I was up on it early, right? But you see the train coming. You see the train coming. You hear the noise, right? James Franklin didn't have time to hear no noise, get out the way. Wasn't no toot toot. Wasn't none of that. Just boom, hit him smack dab in the face. Hit him smack dab in the face. But my thing, if you're a program like Penn State, how great do you think you are supposed to be? Because they're on average a 9-win program, right? Now you think you should be in a
Hopefully what he had him.
right. Now you think you should be an 11-win program. Most programs cannot go from 9 wins to 11 wins consistently, right? The only two, I think, big exceptions in the last 25 years, are Georgia and Oregon, who've really been able to do that, right? But they have a couple of really like built-in advantages. Oregon, it's Phil Knight and that Nike money.
Correct.
Where Phil Knight can buy whoever he wants, get whatever he wants. He finances the entire, not only football program, but the entire athletic department, right? They're printing money over there, right? And in Georgia, it was this thing that there was this huge population influx and population boom in the state of Georgia. And all of a sudden, now they've got more players and they know what to do with. And then they're still close to Florida or South Carolina, Mississippi, and all these other places. Boom. The fact that Metro Atlanta exploded about 25 years ago really helped take Georgia from a 9-win program to the juggernaut that they are today. What advantage is there for Penn State to do something like that, right? And let's give James Franklin his props. I think James Franklin is a great coach. Like a great coach. Like, let's keep it funky. Before he got this job, he was at Vanderbilt. He had 2 back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt.
Yes, he did.
Vanderbilt ain't been that good, possibly before or after. Like in the modern era, we cannot think of a time when Vanderbilt, other than like Clark Lee got him going right now. And Clark Lee gonna have another job soon too, because if you can win 8, 9 games at Vanderbilt, boy, what can you do somewhere else with there ain't these academic restrictions? You know what I'm saying? But if you're James Franklin, I can see why they fired him. Like I can see it, especially after this was supposed to be their all-in season. You bring back Drew Aller, get some guys in the portal, get some receivers, get some guys, to forego the NFL for one more year to try to make a real run at it. And it looks the exact same as it did in terms of you still can't beat your Oregons. And then you turn around and lose to UCLA, who we all thought was cheeks. That creates an environment where you won't keep your job.
I mean, I totally agree. I think the only thing when you're looking at Penn State is kind of like, I don't necessarily want to compare it to A&M because Penn State has been better historically than A&M has. But I think Penn State is looking around at the other Big Ten rivals. Oh, Michigan won a national championship. Ohio State won a national championship. Most of our, like, at the top part of our conference could argue if we might not be as deep as the SEC, but the top of our conference rivals anybody else. So, like, why can't we compete? And I think, like you said, I think James Franklin is a hell of a coach. He kept that program. He brought that program back after what happened before, and it very much could have went in the water.
Yeah, because he was the second coach after everything happened. It was Bill O'Brien, and Bill O'Brien left because
right. Bill O'Brien was
there for like 2 or 3 years, and I remember Bill O'Brien put the names on the back of the jerseys, and all of the paternal people were still around. So they didn't like all of that. They wanted him to.
Right, I forgot that brief stint with Bill O'Brien.
Right, and Bill was like, "I got to get out of here. These people are ridiculous." And Bill pieced out. Right, and then it was James Franklin.
Because he's been there 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, go ahead.
No. You go.
As you kind of mentioned, why can't we do it? Right? It's like the whole why can't we? And I feel like so often in college football, there are so many schools that are asking, why can't we be good? Why can't we be great? Why can't we compete for a title? Right? Well, it's like, all right, what built-in advantages do you have? Right? Like if you're a place like LSU or Ohio State, where you're the only major Power 4 game in town, you're the only serious program in the state, right? Or are you a place like Oregon, where you throwing around money? Texas, where Texas is located in a talent-rich state, and them boys touching some real paper and willing to spend it too, right? Or if you're a program like, when the Arkansas job and when the Oklahoma State jobs opened up, the 2 big things I continually kept thinking about and coming back to was, how good do these jobs expect to be, given NIL, given the portal, given their location, given the fact that they don't seem to have a whole bunch of money, right? Like, if you're at a job like Arkansas or Oklahoma State, unless you throwing around some real bread, this ain't gonna work for you. Like, look at what Texas Tech is doing and the money that they're spending. Right? They got to spend that sort of money because don't nobody want to go to Lubbock. right? Like they're saying they're paying a 20 to 30% premium because dudes, like getting people to Lubbock is much more difficult than getting them to Austin or Dallas, Rouge, or somewhere else like that. Right? They're having to pay a premium. If you're not going to pay a premium for them dudes, you're in a rough spot if you're at a job like Arkansas or Oklahoma State. Now, if you're Penn State, right, you recruit the East Coast, you can make this happen, right? But how many guys are you going to beat? How many times are you going to beat out Ohio State for a guy, right? How many times are you going to beat out Michigan for a guy? Like if we're thinking of the old Big Ten, because it's crazy for me to think about like Oregon and USC being in the Big Ten, which is why
Yes.
expansion sucks, right? If we're thinking about the old Big Ten, which even like Penn State was an independent before they got into Big Ten. You know what I'm talking about? But if we're thinking about the Big Ten as we regionally thought about it over the last 25 years before this last round of realignment, you would say Ohio State's a better option and Michigan's a better option before you say Penn State, right? Would you?
Yeah, for sure. But to your question, I think because of the playoffs, more teams have that motto. Like, why can't we? Because like you're not asking them like you're just getting you got to get to the dance, which they've been able to do. So like why can't we if we have some resources, why don't we feel like we can contend for a championship realistically? Right? Like I think Notre Dame last year with them getting to one because that was a stigma for a long time in this kind of generation like Notre Dame like with Brian Kelly, like they're good. At some point it's going to be tough. Can those guys beat the guys at Ohio State, beat the guys at Texas, at Georgia because of the academic rigors? Well, like they got to a natty last year. So like, okay, well, that's off the table. Can we do we have enough resources? Do we have enough NIL to get there? And then once we get there, it's any given Saturday.
And I think about like this college football season right now and how wide open it is, right?
There.
Like this may end up being one of the wilder college football seasons in recent memory. I know the 2007 season is like our gold standard for crazy seasons. Like, and I wrote the stat down. Teams ranked in the top 5 were defeated by unranked opponents 13
In
times.
'07.
'07 alone. Number 1 and number 2 lost like I think at least 7 times in that season. Like it was a crazy season. I think it was the first time in the BCS era that the champion did not go undefeated because 2 loss LSU won the title that.
Was that the Appalachian State beat
Yes,
Michigan year?
that opening day. Yep, that was them. That's when App State was still in the FCS. Yep, that was that year. Like this year has been insane. Like you really walk through it and think Texas preseason number 1. They lose to Florida, end up unranked. Last week they beat OU. Alabama starts off in the top 8, loses to unranked Florida State. Florida State then has dropped 3 out of their last 6 to open up conference play. They're unranked. Alabama has beaten Georgia, beaten Mizzou. They've got Tennessee this weekend, and they're back in the top 6, right? Oklahoma was in the top 6 up until last weekend, right? And now if you go look at their schedule, they may not be ranked by the end of it too. And I think I was up on that one early. I'm like, the back half of that schedule is brutal, and it might cost Brett Venables his job. Right? Like this is a crazy college football season. And I'm gonna underscore how crazy it is for us, Kennedy Miller. Indiana has an argument that they're the best team in the country. The Indiana Hoosiers. Like, if you would have told me 2 years ago that Kirk Signetti would go to Indiana and turn them boys up like this, I say you up at Indiana? There's no way, right? And here's the thing: last year they did it with the skill talent, but when they played Ohio State, you saw the clear differences. Like they didn't have it up front, right? This year, this ain't no Mickey Mouse stuff. They are beating
No.
people. They beat Oregon head to head, man to man. They whooped Oregon.
So that was another question. Well, I had two. It was a two-part question. Number one, with schools like Arkansas, Oklahoma State being available, is Penn State the best job on the market?
Right
And
now.
like
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
maybe even if like Billy Napier gets fired, would you still consider Penn State the best job on the market? Two, is Kirk Signetti the favorite for the Penn State job?
Ooh, all right. I'm gonna start off with the second one. I'm not sure if Kirk Signetti is the favorite for the Penn State job, right? Because there's two other people I think could fit that job very well. Mike Elko at Texas
Uh-huh.
A&M. He's from Pennsylvania, right? And this is one of those things like with James Franklin, like, oh, if you can get it popping at Duke, y'all could do some things at Duke. Oh, you can cook with gas somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
Oh, like Mike Elko, like it's a regional thing for him. He's, I think, coached at Notre Dame, did some other stuff up in the Midwest. So, like, Mike Elko would be a good fit. Matt Rule, right? Played at Penn State, was a Paterno assistant at one point, and when everything fell apart at Penn State, he didn't say anything that would preclude him from ever coming back to that community, right? And I think that's very important, right? And for me, Matt Rule is a coach. I've seen Matt Rule win at places where it is extremely difficult to win. I think he took Temple to an AAC title
He
game,
did.
and then he went to Baylor after it all had fallen apart with Art Briles and everything else that resulted in the president, the athletic director, and Art Briles himself getting fired. And he took that program and slowly rebuilt that thing. They made it to a Big 12 title, a Sugar Bowl in his third year. The only place Matt Rule has not been successful as a coach, if he's been there 4 or 5 years, is the Carolina Panthers. And I'm not sure if that's fully on him, right?
Right.
Because Jerry Richardson might be the worst owner. He's replacing Daniel Snyder as the worst owner in the NFL, right? And Nebraska, it's still a little hit or miss right now. This is year 2 for him at Nebraska. I think this is his second year. I think it's his third. This is his third. This is his third year in Nebraska. Third year at Nebraska, right? But I think Matt Rule would be a guy for that job as well. Signetti, I think it's interesting. Given his age, like Kurt Signetti's like 64, 65, right? Do you transition again, right, to another job, a bigger job that you might think have more resources, give you a better chance, right? It depends on really, I think, what you want, right? Because if you're Kirk Signetti at Indiana, Kirk Signetti can take this team, and I think by the end of the season, like they're going to have an undefeated regular season if they keep rolling like this, right? Play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which guarantees them a spot in the playoff automatically, right? And we'll see from there. But this is going to be the best Indiana football team in history after last season's team, which we were like, oh, this is the best Indiana team we've ever seen. Kirk Signetti, if he stays at Indiana, they'll build a statue of that man. If he stays there, he'll be a legend. If he stays there, I don't know if they'll ever fire him. They might put his name on the field, right? Like you can stay with the safe job because let's say Indiana slips from where they are right now to 9-3, 8-4, whatever, right? They ain't gonna be calling for his head, do you think? Right? Like I wouldn't think they would because you know who you are? You're Indiana, right? Like you know who you are, right? Kirk Signetti then came and bossed them boys up. Do you stay at that job? Well, I think he'll have the ultimate job security unless something goes left. Or do you take a big swing, especially at 64, 65? Because my thing is with Penn State, you don't fire a coach and have to pay a $56 million buyout.
Mm.
And can we just say for a second with James Franklin, $56 million buyout, they talking about he has to go actively look for a job, right? Let me tell you how hard I'd be looking for a job, Kennedy Miller. I'd be looking for a job. If I was James Franklin, I'd be looking for a job the way Tommy on Martin was looking for a job. Okay.
We just now seeing Ed Orgeron back in
Yes.
from under a rock.
And that was like 19 million.
Come on now. Like, oh yeah, I'm hurt. I want to win a national championship too. Pay me $56 million a lead. Trust me, I'll be out the building by 12:30.
Like, just, hey, kid, did I ever tell you when I told my father how much Jimbo Fisher's buyout was?
What'd he say?
So I was telling him. So if for those of y'all who don't know, when A&M fired Jimbo Fisher, they had to pay a buyout upwards of $80 million. And so I was telling my pops, I'm like, yo, pops, if I was Jimbo Fisher, I'd be itching to get fired. I'm like, that buyout is crazy. He said, but son, you want to do a good job, your reputation and all these other good things, take pride in your work, all the great qualities he's taught me that's made me the success that I am today. Right. Then I said, Dad, you know how much this buyout is? He's like, no, son, how much is it? I said, $84 million. And he went like this. He said, son, let me tell you something. For $84 million, I'll embarrass you, your brother, your mother, my mother. I'll embarrass this entire family for $84 million. Right? He said it would be shameful what I do for an $84 million and not to work. And they didn't even have like a dollar to dollar offset in there. They're like, it's $84 million, whether you go get another job or not.
Correct.
Please, please. Right. But for Penn State, if you're gonna fire the coach and pay that type of buyout, and imagine what the buyout's going to be for the rest of his assistants and support staff and whatever else, we could possibly be talking about close like over $65 million in total once this gets done. And then you're going to have to hire a new coach, pay a bunch of money to him, and a new staff, and a new support staff, and a new recruiting staff, and all of that. This is an 85, possibly going to end up in total being $100 million choice. You don't do something like this unless you plan on hiring somebody's sitting head coach. You don't do something like this if you plan on hiring somebody's coordinator. No, 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 no. You going to get a head
Yeah,
coach,
you're
somebody's
not hiring
sitting
no
head coach.
coordinator.
Right. Like, I think right now, and to your first question, is this the best job that's on the market? I'd probably say yeah. Right. Florida, we have seen what, 4 straight coaches after Urban Meyer. We've seen Jim McElwain fail. Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen did not really fail on the field. Dan Mullen failed in recruiting, and that's why it ultimately fell apart for him. Right. And Will Muschamp failed. They've had 3 straight, they've got some institutional stuff that's going on there. Because honestly, if you really look at it, only 2 coaches have really been able to make the Florida thing shake. Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. That's it. Right. Like, I think, and I could say some of the similar things about Texas, right? Like, Texas gets a lot of run off of like those MAC years. Right. But if you look at it, and this is like kind of ties to desegregation in Texas, like Texas was proud of having the last all white national championship team. Wow. Right. Florida is riding a lot on, like, a lot of what we're talking about with Florida is those 2 coaches and those 2 tenures. Right? Like, and especially that's a harder job because we think about Florida as like this recruiting hotbed, but everybody eats there. Everybody's coming into Florida and trying to get players. And where they are situated geographically in the state, they're not close to the great majority of that talent, which is South Florida. Right. Now, of course, they're near some guys, they can get up to Northern Florida, really South Georgia, and make some things happen there. But when everybody in the country is coming down here to recruit, right, it becomes a bit more difficult. They were behind the facilities. They finally got a facility up and running. I think that Florida job is a good job but you're going to need the right guy to make that shake. Like, but that's not, because that's not a plug and play job, in my opinion. And we said Billy was coaching for his job, and he was against Texas. And they figured out a way to beat Texas, but now it looks back to business as usual.
I totally agree. I just wanted to hear your perspective because I knew that obviously I take Penn State over Arkansas and Oklahoma State, but Florida was one that's like, I think I would still go Penn State though as a more attractive job right now.
And you wouldn't think, inherently you would think that way, because you hear Florida like, oh yeah, I can
Graphically recruiting.
you can cook here. Right now, I'll say this about a place like Florida State, because if this keeps going south from Mike Norvell, you never know. Right? That's a job where I'm like, oh boy, you might be able to make it work. Because they have been subsisting primarily off of the transfer portal for the last almost the majority of the Mike Norvell tenure, which tells me they do not know how to recruit, identify, and develop high school players. And they have to go get open box specials, right? Which sometimes it works. Sometimes you get a great computer for a low price. Other times you get a lemon.
It worked. It worked at one point, and then it did not.
And then you work with Jordan Travis, and then you got DJ Uiagalelei. But speaking of things that, might not be working, maybe on the upswing, Kennedy Miller, we both watched the Red River Shootout.
We did.
Texas loses to Florida, falls out of the top 25. They beat the 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners last Saturday. So Kennedy Miller, are you ready to say the Texas season has been saved and they can still make a run towards the playoff? Because Kennedy Miller, ultimate optimist, I feel like you have an argument coming. I feel like the last couple of days you've been brewing and stewing on something to that effect. Because if I know one thing about Kennedy Miller, is that Kennedy Miller will find a way to say, this is a glass half full. So Kennedy Miller is the glass half full today.
Glass half full. Let's look at the rest of their schedule, right? You got Kentucky, you got Mississippi State, you got Vanderbilt, who, I'm not too high. Like, they're not bad. Like you said, Clark Lee's doing a good job, right? But they can be beaten. Then you got Georgia, right? And that's a big game, right? You got Georgia, Arkansas, and then you got a big game at Texas A&M. I am here to say this. If this Texas team plays like they did this past weekend, which by no means were they perfect, right? They stalled out some drives with some penalties that they probably should have scored on. But one thing that we have talked about consistently since week 1, that defense is elite. Okay. John Mateer playing, like, okay, his thumb was hurt, but I thought it was more decisions than a bad thumb. Right? Like, I think that was the best game that Arch has played. I think it's the best game he's played in the Texas uniform. I do. Like, if you look at the numbers, 21, 27, 166 yards, not great, but 11 for 12 on 3rd down for 117 yards, right? I think that 3rd down, when they're almost like backed up to their end zone and he rolls out and he makes that catch to keep that drive alive, I think that was so big for that Texas offense. Wisner played well. One thing that we are concerned about, we knew what Texas defense was going to do. We were concerned about how Arch was going to look against a Brent Venables defense. And they showed again why they were the number 1 team coming into the season. Not perfect by any means, but you saw flashes, right? You saw flashes. We talked about it the week before, right? When they were playing Florida. The O-line, penalties after penalties after penalties. And Arch was not great. But you will see flashes, right, of a throw like, I don't know if 15 other college quarterbacks can make that. You know what I mean? And so if you can build on that and put that together, you can run the table till you get to Georgia. And then you got to figure it out from there, right? But you can't tell me that defense won't come to play against Georgia. I saw what they did week 1 against Ohio State at Ohio State, right? I think obviously this keeps their playoff hopes alive. And I think they could still go into Texas A&M at 9-2, last game of the season, and we go from there.
For me, I don't want to put is the phrase you don't want to put the barn before the horse?
I think so.
Right. I don't want to do that a second time because I think all of us collectively put the barn.
Yes.
Or put the horse before the barn with this Texas team, and specifically this Texas offense, right? I don't think we saw Arch. I think everybody got enamored with the name and the whole deal. And I think the episode we were talking about on our college football preview, I had some technical issues, so I wasn't really able to say this, right? Coming into the season, the idea that this would be shaky to start off with was not a shock, right? That wasn't particularly a shock to me. I think what was shocking was how in his own head Arch seemed to be those first 3-4 weeks of the season.
Yes.
I think that's the thing I don't think we were prepared for. I think we'd see some plays that would reflect inexperience, that would reflect, you're playing behind 4 new offensive line starters, some new receivers were breaking in. You expect that. You wouldn't expect this sort of, for lack of a better term, as I referred to it on a previous episode, Arch catching a contagious case of tight ass, right? I don't think we were all prepared for that, right? But it happened, right? And something we used to say a lot, Kennedy Miller on this podcast, shout out to the Gateway Apartments days, growth is not always linear, right? And so sometimes that growth looks ugly. Sometimes growth means you don't necessarily win. But I think that Florida game was growth, right? He's navigating some really unclean pockets, right? He's running for his life. Arch is back there effectively getting mugged because our offensive line, shout out to Bubba Sparks. But every time I saw that offensive line against the Florida Gators, all I kept hearing was booty, 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 rocking everywhere. Because that's what they were, Kennedy Miller. Booty. Straight up booty cheeks. That's what it was. That's what it was. Am I lying, Kennedy Miller? Am I lying?
Oh my gosh.
You weren't expecting me to go there? Ken, this isn't as funny as the jersey I want to sit on top of the monster.
Oh my gosh.
That
Yeah.
Texas,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That Texas offensive line was horrible, absolutely horrible. And so Arch was navigating unclean pockets, still making plays. He took a bunch of sacks and threw 2 bad interceptions at the end of the game, right? But he was their best player offensively in that game, right?
Yes.
For me, the Oklahoma game, what gives me some measure of hope is that they went with a freshman at left guard, Nick Brooks. The offensive line was able to make some things happen. They were able to run the ball effectively, which they were not able to do against Florida at all, right? So my thought is if they can actually run the football with Trey Wisner, hopefully Cedric Baxter is back soon, right? That takes some of the pressure off of Arch, right? And hopefully this offense continues to build, right? And at first for me, they just need to put some solid games together, right? Where things are consistent, right? Where they can consistently run the ball. They can consistently throw and catch the ball, right? Where the offensive line can consistently hold up, right? And really at this point, play complementary football. I said it a couple of weeks ago. They don't need to be the greatest show on turf for this season to work, right? But what they do need to do is just be effective offensively, right? I feel like that defense is going to give them some short fields, and hopefully they can make some things shake. And as much better as that offense looked, Kennedy Miller, they still only scored 1 offensive touchdown, right? And it was leaps and bounds better than what it has been. Like that should tell you how bad the offense has looked the early going of the season, where you score 1 offensive touchdown, and we're like, oh my God, they may have found something. Right. And if we're going to talk about Sarkisian, to me, it is a problem that in year 5, your offense and your offensive line looks like this because all these are your dudes. The offense has looked better when Casey Thompson was playing quarterback, and they had, I guess we actually don't pronounce his name Bijan. We've been pronouncing it wrong for years. I guess it's Bijan Robinson. When Bijan was back there running the ball, and they had Xavier Worthy and nothing else at receiver. The offense was better and was humming. There ain't no reason why offensively it looks like this when these are all your guys. These are 4 and 5 star guys, right? But I think the big thing right this year with Texas has been we were paying so much attention to Arch coming into the season that we didn't really consider the fact that they're breaking in 4 new starters on the O-line.
Correct.
Right? That between these last 2 Texas teams, there have been 14 draft picks on those offenses. Right? That's a lot of experience that they lost. What's wrong, Ken?
I'm sorry. I keep thinking about the bully book.
Oh, the Bubba Sparks.
Sorry. Keep going.
No, you good. You good. But on that offensive line coming into the season, they had 43 total starts coming in. 25 of those starts came from DJ Campbell, the right guard. Right? At receiver, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo are the guys that are back from last year's team who contributed. Parker Livingston, redshirted last year. Right? Dalen McCutcheon, true freshman, right? Emmett Mosley, the wide receiver transfer from Stanford, he's been hurt. So CJ Baxter, been hurt. Trey Wisner, been hurt, right? So if they can get this together in gel offensively, and really for me, it's run the football. Can you run the football? You can run the football, you'll be able to figure everything else out. Because like I said, offensively, it seems like Arch is getting better. Right. And to start the season off, he wasn't good, but I don't want to be the person that says just because a guy wasn't good, initially, that doesn't mean they'll never be good because we've seen Jaden
Exactly.
Daniels. Jaden Daniels was not good at Arizona State, right? Joe Burrow got to LSU in that
Got
first
his
year,
got his job. Well, got his starting job beat out by Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State.
right?
Like that
Right.
happened.
Which
Baker
honestly,
Mayfield. It took time.
right. This takes time. And I do think we put the cart before the horse. We expected Archer to show up as a finished product, and he wasn't. Like I think people expected that. And I think like it was a bit too much. It was a bit too much, right? So that's on the Texas end. And like I said, for me, I don't want to have a conversation about Texas being in nobody's playoff and nothing like that until after the Georgia game. We'll see after that. They still had to go play Mississippi State at in Starkville, which is to me the most improved team in the country, right? You got to play Vanderbilt at home, which Vanderbilt, this ain't your mama's Vanderbilt. Them boys
Yeah.
gonna come to play, right? This weekend at Kentucky, right? Let's see how it looks. Let's see how it looks in the Georgia game, and then we'll evaluate from there, right? But they've really put themselves behind the eight ball with that Florida loss. That Florida loss is bad, and frankly, if it comes down to it, they end up losing another ball game, and it's them and another 9-3 team or another 10-2 team. I could see Texas getting left out, and it would at least at this moment it would be justified, right? Because that's an inexplicably bad loss, right? Now on the Oklahoma side of things, um, if you're Brent Venables, Kennedy Miller, to me, it's not just about the fact that you lost. It's about how you lose, right? In 3 of his 4 games against Texas, they have only scored in 3 of his 4 Red River games against Texas. They have not scored touchdowns. In 3 out of 4 years, they have not scored a touchdown. That is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable, right? They rushed John Mateer back, which should tell you one thing. They have no confidence in the backup quarterback at all. Like they full on thought if Hawkins got to go out there and play, we lose him. If we got to go out there with Michael Hawkins, we'll lose. We'd rather go out there with John Mateer. And I don't even think the issue was the thumb. I think the issue was like he hadn't played or really practiced in like full speed game environment in 3 weeks. And he was up there throwing up BLTs. He up there throwing up meatball subs. He threw 3 picks, Ken. But is it just me?
Probably should have thrown about 5
I counted 6 or 7.
because it was one. He basically threw. He basically threw the route to the DB. Go get a touchdown, and he just dropped it because it was going to be a pick 6.
Where Jelani McDonald had jumped it.
Yes, it was going to be a pick 6.
So for you, Ken, and again, we're starting to look at the back half of that schedule for Oklahoma, where they've got to go to Alabama. They've got LSU at home.
South Carolina. Who else they have? It's a tough schedule, and I mean, how you alluded to Texas, right? The best teams have balance, right? They're able to pass the football. They're able to run the football, right? Oklahoma, it gives a feeling of John Mateer, you got to put this cape on and save us. And if you can't save us, then our running attack is not good enough to sustain and win games.
It's
Like
non-existent.
it's too reliant on John Mateer. And again, we just talked about their remaining schedule. Are we confident that John Mateer is going to win 4, 5 of those games?
All right, I got the schedule pulled up. So they got South Carolina. They're on the road at South Carolina this weekend. South Carolina does not appear to be very good. I think they
Right.
can win that game, right?
I do
They've
too.
got Ole Miss at home. Lane Kiffin loves to lose these games. This would be a game Lane Kiffin would lose, right? But they've got Ole Miss. Week after that, on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee is horrific defensively, so they've got a chance. And I think Oklahoma's defense being as great as it is and Venables being able to do what he does on that side of the ball gives them a chance in every single one of these games. They go to Alabama, which
Loss.
arguably is the hottest team in the country outside of
And
Indiana.
I mean, we talk about Arch and overreactions that we had. Remember the conversation that we had after they lost to Florida State? And now this team is freaking on a heater and looking like, man, is he's still fighting for his job. Like he's still fighting for his job. But now, they speaking to him at the grocery store.
Hey man, I was on. See, I gotta go to Legend's Twitter account because Legend was talking. Legend had some nice thing to say about Coach DeBoer the other day. He had some nice things to say about Coach DeBoer the other day. After they lost to Florida State, I already had to go on Maury Povich before the nation and say that Vandy was my daddy. Is this what we've come to accept, Alabama fans? He couldn't get them to cross the street if it was Megan Fox and some Daisy Dukes, right? Losing their minds. Absolutely losing their minds. You know what I'm saying? But look, let them lose, let them drop to Tennessee and drop to Alabama. Oh, they're gonna
Right,
be back. Look,
right.
they have not thrown the pitchforks away. They merely put them in the closet. Okay. But Oklahoma, after that Alabama game, they've got at home versus number 16 Mizzou. They're 5-1. And then they've got at home against LSU. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranked opponents in a row. There's a world where you get into SEC play, John Mateer doing all this backyard stuff. It don't work. I can see 2 more losses on this schedule, especially at least 2, especially the fact if you cannot run the ball, which they can't do, right? Jaden Knott, their big portal pickup from Cal, who they paid a lot of money for, has barely played. Barely played, right? This offensive line, like I think I told you this like the second week of the season when Oklahoma played Illinois State and they couldn't block counter against Illinois State. I said, oh, they can't run the ball. It's a problem. They couldn't run the ball effectively against Illinois State. They ain't gonna be able to run the ball against Ole Miss or Tennessee or LSU or Alabama. And Alabama ain't really that great against the run this year. Go look at them numbers, right? But I think they're in trouble. And Ken, speaking of trouble, we got to do this one before we get up out of here. Bill Belichick, he's in capital T trouble. He might be out of time. Like, ain't even time is slipping away from me. I don't even know if he ever had a grasp on it, Ken. I don't even know if he had a grasp on it, but they gonna fire him in year 1. Like this gonna be, Ken, is it crazy for me to think that this Bill Belichick stint in Chapel Hill is gonna be like those 9 months where Urban Meyer was the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
That's the way that it's going. That's the way that it's going. And then when you look at the buyout numbers, it's not very high. Like, I mean, what we talked about, James Franklin getting 50. I think Bill is at what, like 20? Because
Something like that, yeah.
he had negotiated this like very cheap buyout. Like when you remember when he first took the job, it was kind of like if he leaves in year 1 or gets a better job in year 1, the buyout won't be as much. And it was like, what's going on here? But now the question in the totality of North Carolina football is what is going on here? Because, dude, I did say I think it could work. I did say I think it could work. Clearly, I've overvalued so far Bill Belichick's ability to establish a culture with young adults, right? This article came out and it is killing them, right? Like it's killing him, it's killing Mike Lombardi, which they have a combined 3 children on the staff with them. They're letting certain recruits park. They got preferential parking spots, right? Like apparently there's a big difference between a Mac Brown recruit and one of the guys that they got in the transfer portal, right? They don't communicate with the parents at all. They don't do any of this stuff. It's crazy. And then you look at what's happening on the field, and their offense is I think like 128th out of 136 FBS teams. The quarterback Gio Lopez from was it South Alabama or whatever, they paid him
Yeah.
2 million. What by the time did he play versus Clemson? Who
He
was
didn't
he?
play he didn't play long. They ended up having to play Max Johnson.
Yes, who I'm not sure is getting any NIL money. It's just it's a whole ordeal, and that article did not do them any justice whatsoever.
You know, most times when articles like that come out, Ken, they're after a coach has been fired. when we're doing this sort of post-mortem, what went
Oh,
wrong here. I remember when the
still
Athletic
going
did
on.
their yeah, I remember, like, when the Athletic did their post-mortem on the, Jimbo Fisher area at Texas A&M, right? These are things that or when the Athletic did theirs about Urban Meyer's time in Jacksonville. This is happening, and we are 5 weeks into the season. They've not even played 6 games yet, and we're already here. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem, right? No one there is happy. No one's having a good time, right? Like, this went from the first week, Michael Jordan's there, Julius Peppers is there, Vince Carter's there, Lawrence Taylor's there, which I don't know if I do that. Michael Jordan's never coming to another North Carolina football game again.
Dude,
I'm
that
gonna
was
tell you
game
that right now.
1. That was game 1. By halftime of the Clemson game, it looked like half the stands were empty. That's how
Because you know
far
what they
we've fallen.
in 5 weeks, at least, and I'm gonna bring this up in here in a second. At least at Colorado, it kind of slowed down once they got smashed by Oregon. You know, they took a couple of losses, and then it went from Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James, and you know some of those folks being Michael Irvin, Warren Sapp being there, and then by week 10, it's just Jacquees, right?
Now
By
now
week 10,
Mike is still gonna show up because I don't know if he's found a dealer in those mountains, but I I gotta keep asking myself because when I see Mike at those Miami games, whoever he is around, he has never had anything that stepped on.
we're talking about what homeboy say in the wire, the string of beds, like after he got it off the boat from the Greeks. Man, this is raw string.
Oh yeah, he's getting the purest of the pure.
When they cut Michael Irvin's chest open, I promise you, his heart is going to be white. When they
When
cut
they
him open, because I ain't go
when
front.
they examine
Go
his
ahead.
brain, Alex Goodwin, football may be banned.
Between him, Antonio Brown, and Herschel Walker, you might have to
Oh yeah,
stop the whole thing. And I ain't gonna lie. Two things, we were in school, Kennedy Miller. We did the DARE program. Say no to drugs. Say no to alcohol. Right. This is your brain on cocaine or crack. Right. All that stuff. Right. Two things make that stuff seem fun. Two things: Soul Train and Michael Irvin. You saw how them folks was dancing on Soul Train in the 70s, Kennedy Miller. You saw them, and it was like, hey, I ain't gonna lie. They are having a ball. They're having a ball. And then I see Michael Irvin. He ain't even at Soul Train. Michael Irvin ain't even at what they call it, Studio 54. He ain't even nowhere like that. Michael Irvin just at a football game doing this.
when I saw that man on all fours on the side,
Yeah.
you're not gonna fool me. Like you not gonna fool me. I know a man that's on drugs when I see one. I'm like Joe Madden. I know a crackhead when I see one. Okay, you're not gonna fool me, dude.
But Bill can't even get nobody to show up. Like,
No, yeah. Back to the original
they
story.
have they can't even get their cokehead to show up. Lawrence Taylor hadn't shown back up since that first game either.
I'm not sure how many educate. I'm not sure how many places of education Lawrence Taylor needs to be around.
Yeah, that there is that. There is that. Say
Like,
Drake. Say
uh,
Drake.
I'm glad that that was a. Hopefully, that was a closed off suite away from the rest of the arena. Okay, because I don't think we need you in Gen Pop, Lawrence.
Oh no, like I bet you he had to have his probation officer there with him.
Yep. Test him after the
All
game.
right. Yeah. Well, not even no. He was probably in the suite with Lawrence. Ken, you ever seen? Matter of fact, Ken, you ever seen? Like Did you have a pet growing up? Okay, so sometimes you ever seen people put a collar on their dog when a dog get to bark
Oh
and they
yeah.
just press the little thing. That's what they probably have to do with something like Lawrence Taylor when you go to something like that. That's probably what you
Yeah.
have to do. It's probably what you have to do. But all that being said, with Belichick. This is what it's come down to. We're not talking about on the field. We're not talking about maybe they're building or offensively what they're doing or schematically what Bill's doing. We're talking about the crackheads that aren't there. We're talking about the fact that in Carolina, it's basketball season already, right? They've already moved on. And for me, my big thing is Ken. I remember we talked about it when Belichick got the job. We talked about it here on this show, and I was like, I don't see this working, right? And the biggest reason I said I didn't see it working was you actually have to be able to in college football identify talented players, recruit them, get them on campus, and develop them. Right now, you can talk this 33rd NFL team stuff. Here's a problem with that. At the end of Bill Belichick's time in New England, he couldn't identify, develop talent at all. Go look at those last couple of drafts they had and how bad they were. Go look at that was why they had to spend all that money in free agency because they kept striking out on draft picks and Bill was in charge, right? And so then you turn around and you hire Lombardi, who wasn't a good NFL general manager, and you ask him to come to college football, which he has no substantive experience, right? And then the arrogance of these people, the pure arrogance of these people to think we've never done this, but we know what we're doing. Right. I think that's the other part of it that really is where this really isn't going well because the guys they have on the field, they're not good. Like they took a transfer. Like I think they were looking at height, weight, size, and not like if this is this some of these guys actually good, right? Gio Lopez, like you paying a dude from South Alabama. That is not a power four quarterback. He is not, right? And everything that's going wrong with Belichick on the field, that's before you start talking about the fact that he never coached in college, right? He didn't really want this job. He didn't really want this job. And the athletic director that ended up hiring him didn't want to hire him, right? The board of trustees and all those folks and the chancellor, all those people on the university at academic administrative side of things, they offered Belichick a contract, started negotiating with him without the knowledge and consent of the people in the athletic department, specifically the athletic director. Bill Belichick was not who Bubba Cunningham wanted, right? And that's before you get to the fact that Bill Belichick was out here embarrassing the university, him and his girlfriend that's young enough to be his granddaughter over the offseason. And I want to make this point, Ken. I think we really should think about this. Everything people thought Deion Sanders was going to be at Colorado, Bill Belichick has been in North Carolina. Everything appears to be all about Bill Belichick. He appears to be in this for himself, and the team sucks. And I don't know if you've seen the stat. In 3 games against Power 4 opponents, they have been outscored 120-33.
Yes.
They might legitimately be up there with UCLA as one of the worst teams in the Power 4. I do not see UNC winning another game this year. Like, they played Clemson, and Clemson put up a quick 28 in the first quarter. And I'm like, Clemson, they could score 70 if they want to. Like, I don't know if you remember the time when Oklahoma played Texas A&M, and I think Oklahoma put up like the score was like 77-0, and it was clear if they wanted to, they could score 100 points. I started watching that Clemson game, and I was like, oh, the score could be 60-0 at halftime if they wanted to. But I don't know if Dabo Swinney was calling himself being a good Christian or what it was. But I'm like, this is all bad. This is all bad.
Yeah, man, they're done for this season. I'm not gonna say I would be shocked if he comes back, but kind of like you said, these articles don't come out for somebody that's still going through the season. And so I don't know where they go from here. Like, how do you go out and recruit kids after this mess this year? Like, even an article said parents don't get contact. They didn't meet Bill till like the spring game. And nobody has contact with, you know, they don't even have some of the coaches' numbers. Like it's nonsense.
This is what happens when you have a bunch of people that have not coached college football before. This is the kind of thing that happens. Like if Bill Belichick had gone out and started talking this 33rd NFL team stuff and started hiring coaches, guys and support staff from places like Texas, Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, I'd be like, oh, Bill up to something. If Bill went and got assistant coaches from these big programs, guys who are really good recruiters, I said, oh, Bill up to something. But Bill went and got his homeboys, all of which just about don't have a whole lot of coaching experience in the college ranks. Right? So, and here's the worst part. I think it might have been the same story you're talking about from Bruce Feldman at The Athletic, where they talked to a group of 5 head coach, and he's like, we lost out on the kid to North Carolina. He said, if we're in a competition with North Carolina for players, that's a bad sign for them. Right? Like, if you are competing with Troy and App State and Eastern Carolina for players, hey, dog, you don't have it. You do not have it. Man, look, I think it would be crazy to bring him back next year. Like, you're going to have to hard reset and try this again. And this time run a real search. But at this point, if you're North Carolina, I don't know who would actually take this job. And I'm going to say this, them got to pick these games, Ken. Is it just me, or do people have less patience for a team to be sorry out of the gate because of the transfer portal? Because I think, like, people's willingness to have, like, having a year 0 where you just are flat out, I'm not going to do it a third time. Not good. Not good. We're just flat out not good. And uncompetitive. People don't have the patience for that in the portal era. You know what I mean?
Because like you said, like when we were talking about Texas with Steve Sarkisian, this is his 5th year. These are all his guys. Well, like if you can overhaul and bring in 40 plus new guys, those are your guys, effectively, right? Regardless, it takes time. Like every coach knows it. Like it is a rarity where you just get a golden season, you go undefeated, or you go to the playoffs your first year, you have so much success. It does take time. But there are certain things like that come out that's like, okay, well, at least a culture is being built here, right? Like a positive culture, right? We might not be talented enough. We might have whipped on some guys, but are we putting the right infrastructure in place for kids for this to be a good football program? And the athletic article shamed it. Like all these quotes from all these people for a coach that's still in charge. Like, oh yeah, it was bad when he was here. It's easy to say that. It was bad when he was here. Man, we used to do this, this, and this. People going off the record. Hey, come over here. I'll tell you what's going on. This, like, I don't know if you've seen. It's a new documentary. It's a new documentary on HBO called the Alabama. I can't remember the Alabama something, but it's about
Conundrum.
Yeah, it's about the prison system and what's going on. Them dudes got the phones, and they got the phones and said, "Here's what's going on to these journalists." That's what these people are doing to Bill Belichick. Like, come over here, pull to the side, put my earphones in. This is what is going on in this program right now. That's awful.
Hey, man. All bad for old Bill. All bad. We're going to look back on this like we look at Patrick Ewing playing for the Magic in the Supersonics, or Hakeem Olajuwon, Raptors, right? Like we go look at it like that. Like we're gonna act like that never happened. Because like if you think about it, is there an artist we do that with? Kennedy Miller? With those last 3 albums, it didn't happen. Like we're like, I don't. Well, I'll say this: Lil Wayne. We are gonna talk about Carter 1, 2, 3, 4, and Carter 5. I thought was good, but Carter 6,
I did like
not
Carter
even
5.
Yeah, I thought Carter 5 was fine. I thought, some of his later career stuff has been really crazy uneven. And like some of them, like I'm Not a Human Being too, we gonna act like that didn't happen.
I agree.
One more thing, we'll get the game picks, Ken. We might cut this out. I don't know. Somebody said a new way of saying something is ass. Is saying, look at all that Carter 6.
Yeah, that was bad, bro. That was bad.
3 songs in, I was like, oh no, no, I can't do this. All right, Ken, you ready to pick some games?
I sure am. Let's do it.
All right, let's start off with number 10 LSU going on the road. I don't think we've ever put Vanderbilt on our game picks, yet here we are. Who you got, Ken?
I'm gonna go with Bandy. I just don't trust LSU. I don't. I don't know what I'm gonna get out of them offensively. Clark Lee's been doing his thing at Bandy. I'm gonna go with Bandy on this. I do not trust LSU, man. I really don't.
I'm going to say this. It must be hard dealing with the American dream, Brian Kelly, under optimal circumstances. I could just imagine how unbearable that man is when he is under some stress. And right now, he is under some stress, right? They can't get that offense together, right? They finally have gotten the defense figured out, right? But I'm going to go LSU in simply like height, weight, size, right? Like Vandy played Alabama and, Vandy played them as well as they could, right? But by the end of the game, they just physically weren't big enough, right? I think that ends up becoming a problem here for them again. I'm going to go LSU here, but it wouldn't shock me if Diego Pavia, New Mexico
Leave me alone.
Military Institute, he didn't put them boys on the map, Ken.
Yes.
He didn't put Schooley and them boys on the map.
I got him on the upset, man.
All right, next game. Number 5, Ole Miss, going between the hedges to play the Georgia Bulldogs. Ken, who you got?
Georgia. I think it's gonna be a good one though. Yeah, I'm gonna just say that as my quick response. I got Georgia.
These are normally games Lane Kiffin loses, right? Like Lane Kiffin will get you into a good spot, but he'll lose he'll lose those Alabama, those Georgia, those LSU games. And he also might drop one. He's also going to drop a bad one to Kentucky too, but they'll beat everybody else, right? This is a game we're really going to see if Ole Miss is for real, right? Because I see Ole Miss ranked at number 5, and I'm like, they probably going to lose 3 out of their last 6 down the stretch.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
I'm
think
not,
that they're really the 5th best team in the country.
right. So I'm like, them boys a little fugazi, right? I think them boys a little fugazi. I'm going to go Georgia as well. Next up, we go transition to the NFL. We got Eagles and Vikings.
Where's the game at?
In Minnesota.
Last week, who did the Eagles lose to before the Giants?
The Broncos.
Last week, I would have said if we were doing the Eagles Giants, well, the Giants are gonna get whooped. The Eagles, they got payback on their minds, right? They got something to play for. But there's something fundamentally going on in that locker room with them. They have not played a full 60 minutes of football yet. I still cannot see them losing 3 straight games, though. I think they'll beat the Vikings. But I do think it is some tension. Probably, they need to explore looking at other options for A.J. Brown. But I think they'll beat the Vikings.
Boy, I tell you what, they got the most Maya Angelou quotingest dudes in the league.
Man,
between
take that
Jalen
Tango
Hurts
off and stop giving me them quotes.
Bro, Jalen Hurts, like, what was that when they played the Chiefs? Like, I don't know. Does Jalen Hurts practice these? Does he write these down? Like, but I don't know. Like, you talk about people having a calling. Jalen Hurts has a calling in giving these, like, put it in a fortune cookie quotes. He has a calling, right? Like, after Devontae Smith fell on his back at the end of that Eagles game, at the end of the Eagles Chiefs game, they asked him about Jalen Hurts about it. He came back, made a big catch, whatever. He said he fell on his back, but he bounced back. Or, he fell on his back, but we had his back. It was something where it was like this. Brother, did you see him fall down? And then there it is right there. Like, you never know when the inspiration's going to hit you. Right? Is it one of those? I'm not sure. Right? But I do know this. Offensively, they're going to end up firing the coordinator. Right? Like,
Yes.
I see that now because they have these stretches where it looks good, and then it just lull. Huge lull against the Broncos. I think they didn't really have a substantive drive in the fourth quarter until they had to try to go win it at the end, the last minute, right? Against the Buccaneers, they get up 24-6, but then they don't have a single passing yard in the second half. Right? Last week, they put up 17 points in the first half, then don't piss a drop in the second. There is a structural issue offensively there with what they're doing, in addition to the fact that Saquon Barkley, he looks like a dude that had like 400 odd touches last year. You can tell,
Doesn't he look like he
right?
hit the wall?
Man, him and the offensive line both, right? You can
Yes.
see those touches in that amount of physicality on them right now. You can clearly see it, right? And this is what happens if you're Nick Sirianni, you don't hire the right guy, right? If you culture guy and you make a bad choice on who's going to be your coordinator, or whatever, it starts to look like this again, right?
But you know, and
So
I'm in no way an Eagles fan, and I'll be real quick with this. But it's got to be tough. What, this is his fifth offense coordinator in 5 years.
if
Like,
you're
you
going
had
back to
Shane Steichen.
Alabama, this is like coordinator 10.
Yeah, you had Shane Steichen. You had Kellen Moore. You got this guy. And then you had the two that
Brian
didn't really
Johnson
work.
and Brian. I mean, shoot, think about he had Doug Peterson.
Yep. So it's just like it's like they're striking every other year. Like Steichen, that was probably one of his, if not his best season. Last year he had a really good season with Kellen Moore. So it's just tough to form some type of continuity.
Yeah, I mean, there is that piece of it. There's absolutely that piece of it, and I don't think they can figure out what exactly they want to do, right? Because those first couple games where he's not really doing much throwing the ball, then all of a sudden they come out these last couple games and they're gonna throw the ball all over
Yes.
the yard.
Yes, like now we're just gonna force it.
There's no sort of consistency there, right? And I think that sort of consistency there of like schematically, offensively, what you're going to do is really harmed by the fact that the running game isn't. They can't really lean on that the way that they did last year, right? They're in a weird spot. We said all that to say I don't think there's a chance they're gonna. I personally don't think they're gonna be if Carson wins or JJ McCarthy starts. I don't think they lose that game. If they do, oh boy, you start talking about Alabama fans being crazy. Them Eagles fans,
But yeah.
hey brother, take care. And lastly, in the Unk Bowl, Bengals, Steelers. Kennedy Miller, who you got?
Steelers. Now the Bengals not gonna get blown out. Like these teams, even if they're missing their quarterbacks, right? I know what the Texans did to the Ravens a couple of weeks ago, but for the most part, these teams gonna play hard. Right. And especially in the division, it's gonna be pretty close games. But man, you talked about Carolina being, a place that a lot of people cannot function. Can we mention the Jets as that as well? Because how bad Aaron Rodgers looked last year, and I'm not saying he looks great this year, but he looks serviceable. Right? They're what, 3-1, 4-1,
1-1.
right? They have an opportunity. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win 11, 12 games, but they can win 9 or 10 games and close out this division in early December, maybe late November.
Forget that. Look, for they might be able to close it out in a month. As bad as it is,
Correct.
this might be the worst division in football.
Oh, as it stands with the injuries, with Burrow out, Lamar out, Cleveland being Cleveland,
Cleveland.
you know, I think Pittsburgh is going to win this game, man. They're a team that's just they're going to get in that playoff. They're going to get in that playoff picture, and then be the team that we all predict is going to be the first round loss by the
Yeah,
wild card
man.
team.
I mean, that's fair. I think that's fair because that division is straight up Carter 6. Bad,
Yeah,
right?
it's bad.
If you ask me, Bengals Steelers, who I think is gonna win, I think the Steelers gonna win the game. But I tell you who the real winner of this game is gonna be. That's Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay, because the idea that Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers in the year of our Lord 2025 are still playing
Crazy.
meaningful NFL football just sounds like a trip to urgent care waiting to happen. I hope them boys got their insurance. Well, never mind, it won't be Blue Cross Blue Shield because Aaron Rodgers don't believe in real medication. I forget. He gonna smoke some rocks, you know, get some tea tree oil, rub it on his knee or something like that. And he's like, I'm immunized, right? That's how that's going to happen. But I don't know what Joe Flacco's situation is on the on trusting the science, right? But if Joe Flacco trusts the science, his insurance provider is going to be thrilled because he's like, we know he coming in. This is like when Lonzo Ball and Ben Simmons was playing one-on-one. Have a doctor ready, baby. Have a doctor.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly, man. But I think Steelers going to win. You predict Steelers will win too?
I mean, the Bengals got 5 fat guys in front. I mean, Joe Flacco might as well not even have an offensive line. Just might as well be. They might as well be playing 7-on-7. All right, Joe, T, and Jamar Chase. That's it. And let's be honest, he's not fleet of foot enough to run for his life.
Who's that?
Joe Flacco. He don't run nearly as fast enough to run for his life.
No,
Like this is going to get ugly quickly. Like them two in an NFL football game is like at a family reunion, have you ever seen your uncles, like your aunts and uncles, have a race?
Yes.
I heard one time a dude told me at a family reunion his aunts and uncles had a race. Right. No one actually finished the race. One dude pulled a hamstring, someone else tore Achilles, someone else someone else almost on himself. That's what I keep thinking about with Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers. This will not end well. And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
Always a pleasure, my man.
Where can the folks find you on the artist formerly known as Twitter?
Me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _.
All right. You guys can find me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in Steelers, M as in mother. Again, don't forget, follow the show on our official Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel. Help us get to 100 subscribers, guys. Again, we're going to do a giveaway for y'all once we get closer to that number and y'all get us over 100. Well, if y'all get us to 100 subscribers, we promise we got something for you. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. For Kennedy Miller, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast, and we will see you guys next time. Take it easy.